This is Tuesday, July 24th. There are 358 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2019. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog. Good evening. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast tonight, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey, guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Looks like you're loaded up in some Comic-Con gear.
I am. Yeah. I wanted to rep Taco Bell since I kind of loved it. And I've got something else I'll show later. Yeah.
Yes. Welcome to SDConCast. We'll take your questions probably throughout the show and at the end. So send them on in. Tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. We will also be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. All right. So basically this is best and worst, a discussion or how things went weird. What do you want to go with?
I mean, honestly, let's just start with like the weird comment because I feel like we are definitely not the only ones who made that statement.
Definitely not.
No, in fact, I feel like pretty much everyone agrees that it was a very weird year. And weird doesn't necessarily mean bad. There were good things and bad. It was just weird. And by that, we mean like the normal trends just didn't necessarily seem to be there. I mean, you could go into Hall H every single day without camping out. That was cool.
That was pretty awesome.
The floor, I felt like was way less crowded. In fact, I was joking around with Udon on Sunday. I was like, watch this! And I took like 3 big steps backwards and I didn't bump into anyone. I was like,
we're going to a different place than I was on Sunday because it was a little crowded where I was, but that was like near Marvel and Sideshow. So it was a little crowded there, but
yeah. Yes, there were definitely still pockets, but in general, like the crowds just didn't. I don't know. I don't know if they let less people in. I don't know if everyone was just like way more evenly dispersed this year, which is in reality like how the convention is supposed to work. It just rarely works that way. It was just a weird year. What do you think was weird this year?
Well, for me personally, I thought it was weird that I got into more different stuff than I usually do. It felt good to go to different things. And while that was weird, it was a good weird.
Yeah.
Weird doesn't always have to be bad, right?
Correct.
So
again, I think when we say weird, like we mostly just mean like
different.
Yes, like I mean, you and I talked to a bunch of booths and they were even like it's been a good year, but just like the normal trends that we have are just very different this year. And I think that all of that is due to a whole bunch of factors. And I think all of them combined just kind of like created this like very strange year.
Right. It was the using the word that Sean taught me. It was a strange confluence of events.
There you go. Yeah.
This being a weird year.
It really was because I mean, like, I think no Marvel and no Game of Thrones in Hall H meant that Hall H was actually pretty easy to get into. I think that the lotteries meant that people weren't lining up maybe in quite the numbers that they were as early for the floor. And I also think that like that meant that for smaller booths, because I talked to a lot of booths about this as well, they noticed that like some of the like medium-sized booths noticed that they had way more people on Thursday and Friday this year than they did on Saturday. And we think that a lot of that is maybe because the people who would normally have rushed straight to like Funko or Hasbro instead were hitting up like what would have normally been their number 3 or number 4 or number 5 position booth and making that their number 1 instead. Again, none of it was bad. Well, there were a couple of bad things, but it was just very different. To me, honestly, it felt more like Comic-Con like circa 2011, 2012 with the lines.
Right. Yeah, where you could actually go to stuff. I mean, there we're not saying that like everything was a walk-in,
No.
but everything was manageable.
There was not a single panel this year that required you to sleep outside in order to get into it. Not
Right.
a single one. Like maybe there were a couple you had to be there by like, I don't even feel like there were any you had to be there by like 4 or 5 a.m. for, honestly.
I don't think so, because the biggest panels were that had the biggest lines was Ballroom 20 on Saturday.
Yep.
The Good Place also on Saturday, right? Or was that Friday?
That was Saturday. That had a really long line.
Almost every day had something resembling a line, but nothing that required you to wait super early.
Yeah, I feel like they only even got to like D wristbands like 2 of the days. I think it was like Saturday and Sunday. I don't think Thursday or Friday they even got to the Ds.
And if they did, they just got into the Ds. They never finished handing out wristbands.
No. I don't think they never finished handing out wristbands any day, I don't think.
So Ballroom 20 was really packed on Saturday. I think once it filled up, it was full by Black Light. And throughout the day, until we left after Supergirl, there was no one leaving that room in any kind of quantity. It was
well, of course not. I mean, all those panels have the same fans.
Exactly. So, and then the Good Place was a really long line because it was both Good Place and Steven Universe, right?
It was both Good Place and Steven Universe, and I want to talk about this, okay? And I'm gonna curse, so my apologies to any children watching. What the fuck were they thinking with Indigo's load-up procedure?
We're gonna get right into the bad part.
Oh my god! Yes, no, there were like 3 truly terrible things this year. Indigo was one of them. Someone told me that they did the same thing last year, but I think there wasn't quite the demand last year at Indigo that there was this year, because this year they did have Steven Universe last year and this year, but this year they had Steven Universe and The Good Place back to back, which meant like a whole huge swarm of people descended. And then Brooklyn Nine-Nine was also really freaking hard to get into. And the way that they were doing it was just idiotic. And I'm sure the hotel probably at some point said, like, we want to change this so that our guests can use the escalators, but it was terrible. So the way that it used to work at Indigo is basically you would literally just go into the lobby and walk in. If by some chance there was a line out in the marina, they would like take the line into the little load up area. It was all very efficient. It moved really fast. What they did this year was probably like an hour and a half before doors, they would start taking you up 10 to 20 people at a time, up the escalators, do a bag check, put you in the load up area. Once they were sure you were situated, they would go back down the escalator, get another 10 to 20 people, do the same thing. And I mean, it took like 4 minutes for each 10 to 20 people in a room that holds like 2,000 something people. That is not efficient. That is not efficient. I mean, there were multiple times all week long when the room would have plenty of seats, but they just couldn't get the people loaded fast enough between panels up in there.
Right. So it's not that those 2 particular panels were any longer of a wait than anyone else. I mean, Christopher in the chat said maybe 6 a.m., which sounds about right, that you had to get there around 6 a.m. to be able to get into the room.
Yeah.
It's the way they loaded that room all weekend. That was the problem.
Yes, all week long. And I was talking to the security guards.
That's what happened.
Yes. I mean, I was going crazy on like Thursday, I think, when Brooklyn Nine-Nine, because people were tweeting us like, there's seats in the room, like, what's going on? And like, we were standing in a line and just not moving. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And
so
again,
that's the main issue is in between panels, if there's 400 empty seats and you're only taking in 20 people at a time, and there's only 15 minutes between panels, you're not going to load those 400 seats.
No, it was bad. It was really bad. And again, I'm sure that the Bayfront was like, look, we have our own hotel guests. Like, we want to be able to get them up the escalators. But there's things they could do. Like, between the panels, they weren't taking people up to go ahead and like preload them into the load up area. Like they were basically just leaving them to sit outside until between the panels. It was just all so stupid. So if anyone from Comic-Con International is listening, it's a really fucking terrible system. And we should not do this again next year.
Yes.
And Stephanie L in the chat just said probably Indigo rules instead of CCI. I do have a feeling that Indigo may or that the Bayfront may have said like, we want to use the escalators, but I did confirm that the security people who were doing the load up process worked for CCI and not for the Bayfront. Because trust me, I asked. So that was my worst of the weekend. But do you want to talk about your worst, and then we'll get to all the amazing things?
Sure. The worst thing was being in Ballroom 20 when it was that packed, and then having that bathroom procedure for Ballroom 20, which I don't think really had been an issue any previous day because it wasn't so crowded.
Right.
Where with the scan in and out that they were using and only having one scanner in and out, after the Simpsons panel, it was apparently lunchtime, and a massive amount of people wanted to leave the room, and the line to get out of the ballroom stretched from the back of the room where the scanner was all the way to the stage at the front of the room. And then after you got out, because I actually decided to leave halfway through the next panel to go to the bathroom, and I waited for the line to go away. I went out, not realizing that, of course, you know, if everyone's waiting in a line to get out, there's probably going to be a line to get in. The line to get in was even worse. The line to get in was from the scanner all the way around the end of Ballroom 20 near the front of the convention center. Plus, they started using the chutes that are there for the morning lineup for the limited signings. So there was chutes plus the line down the hall. And it took me, I think, almost half an hour, 40 minutes to get back into the room. Basically, from when I left to when I got back in was about 40 minutes.
See, that's just ridiculous. Like, it should, like, no. Again, just no. And I know that, like, logistically, all of this stuff, I'm sure, is so hard to plan. But yet, like, you're a convention that has 135,000 attendees. Like, maybe you should have more than one scanner.
Yeah.
Just a thought. Crazy, but just a thought.
Just a thought. And someone mentions that they walked into Indigo. It's like, yeah, absolutely. When there was no line, it's fine.
Yeah.
Just walk in.
Absolutely. Well, and not only that, but a couple of people on Thursday actually told me that, like, they just bypassed the line outside. Like, they showed up at, like, a perfect time when somebody was, like, heading back down the escalator, I guess, to get another group, and just, like, walked in that way.
Nice. Smooth people.
Okay.
Yeah, and there was a lot of small rooms where there may have been a wait. Jennifer in the chat mentioned that 6A was full a lot with long waits, and that's, I think, the room where My Hero Academia panel was, which is
I think so too.
Obviously a problem when there's only, I think that 6A is only like 500 seats possibly. So there was, I think when we call it weird, it's just because. And I actually spoke to someone at CCI, and a lot of those smaller rooms were actually fuller than usual from past years. So a lot of the other rooms that you normally don't hear about were also fuller. They weren't necessarily packed, but they were all fuller than normal. Some of them were packed, some of them weren't. I mean, so when that happens, that just alleviates everywhere, and then everywhere just feels better.
Yeah. It's again, like, that's really the way that the convention is supposed to work, is like the crowds are supposed to be like very evenly dispersed between all of these things. And I think a lot of it is no Marvel, no Game of Thrones, no lotteries, or yes, lotteries, but that way, like, you don't have to necessarily go line up for your Funko or your Hasbro or your autographs or whatever. And so those people have to do something.
Right.
And I think,
as Night Bodega mentions in the chat, Lottery Portal gave me more opportunities to go to panels.
Yeah, exactly.
That gets them off the floor.
Yep.
So the floor then becomes hopefully slightly less crowded, because what would happen with those people hunting exclusives and signings, if they didn't get those, they typically went to the floor to hunt for more exclusives. Well, Thursday obviously was incredibly crowded on the show floor, I think. I mean, in parts. And that's where a lot of people hunting exclusives went, because they went to their, if they didn't get a lottery for, let's say, Funko, they went to Funimation or Bait or one of the others, Factory, who knows, UCC. They went somewhere that didn't require a lottery check and bought something there, and then maybe went and found a panel to go to. So everyone was, I think the movement of the entire con shifted.
Yeah.
If you talk about, as you mentioned, with the dealers saying that some days were slower than usual, even if it was busier than last year. And that shifted because if there's no Marvel, there's no 2-day wait for Hall H for essentially thousands of people who are willing to line up at least 24 hours in advance. All those people can now go to other panels and shop on the floor. So Thursday and Friday are going to be busier if there aren't hundreds, if not thousands of people wandering around not in line for Hall H.
Yeah.
So, and if you combine that with no Game of Thrones, which again multiplies the people waiting in line from Wednesday night and on, you now obviously are just going to have so many people who have other things to do. The surprising thing to me is that there wasn't something else that got massively hit like the Hall H line. No one thing took the hit. Nothing was more than a 3 or 4 hour wait. I think the entire weekend.
No, I think you're right.
There was no offsite that required a massive wait, except for the VR portion of Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
That obviously required a lot because they had a limit to the number.
And I just want to stop on this for a minute, because we had a lot of people tweeting us all weekend like, the offsite lines are still really long. And yes, they were. A lot of them were still like 2 to 3 hour waits. But you got to remember, last year, Game of Thrones was literally at one point like an 11-hour wait, or you did not get in. I'm not kidding. 11-hour wait, or you did not get in.
Yeah.
Westworld last year was literally like camp out from like 7 p.m. the night before, or you did not get in. There were none of those this year. So when we say like offsite lines were short, we mean like comparatively. And Amanda Panda just said in the chat, Jack Ryan VR was 9 hours. But there were other things to do at Jack Ryan that were not 9 hours. Last year, like literally just a walk in the door at Game of Thrones was 11 hours.
And that's a good time to comment about that, which This Is My Show Industries actually mentioned in the chat a little while ago. One of the bad things that we personally didn't experience was the wait in line to get into the offsite to then wait in another line to do one of the portions of the offsite. So you had to essentially wait in 2 lines, which then does increase the amount of time you have to wait from 2 or 3 hours to 4 or 5, 6 hours. So that was not great.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That was not great. But let's I don't want to dwell too much here on the bad, because honestly, this was the most fun I have had at San Diego Comic-Con in literally years. I felt like I got to do more. I didn't have to sleep on the ground to do it. I liked that. It was just a really good year. So let's talk a little bit about some of the really good stuff. What do you want to talk about?
We talked about the lines, so I think that was a good, with every line being shorter than normal, especially Hall H, that big one, but that was the good. Offsites in general, we felt that there was some really good ones. I don't think there was anything that was just like blow your mind awesome like Westworld last year, but so few people got to do that one that we really couldn't count it. Personally, we got to go to Taco Bell, which
oh my god,
on that was incredible.
It was so it was just the work that they had put into it. And I just want to tell this story because I thought it was hysterical. So we were talking to the Taco Bell PR guy, and he was telling us that it was basically like his brainchild. He was telling us that he called up Warner Brothers and was like, so it's the 25th anniversary of Demolition Man. Are you guys doing anything? And they were like, no. And he was like, okay, well then I want to pitch you something. So I just freaking love that the Taco Bell guy was like nerding out over it and having the time of his life. In fact, one of the days he was like dressed up as a waiter there. Like it was just amazing.
Yes. Now, we are talking about the good, but I must mention that there were issues with running out of food on your night. And for me, by the way, I got sick at Comic-Con. Oh, surprise, surprise. But I got sick during Comic-Con, not after. So it was kind of annoying. That's going in my bad section, by the way, but I talked about it now. On my night, I think we got like waitress shift change because ours took forever to get. It took, I think it was supposed to be like about a half hour, 45-minute service. And I think it took us a little over an hour, if not an hour and a half, to get all the way from the beginning to the end. I mean, obviously, I was pretty much okay with it because I got to enjoy the ambiance and everything.
Right. And if you did not go, like, it was so much fun. They had a piano guy who was playing like jingles, like the Folgers jingle. Like, it was just magical. I loved it.
Good. Jack Ryan, the escape room was awesome. We had a lot of fun, even though we sucked at it.
We were so awful, guys. But we beat the 8-year-olds. Woo!
We beat the 8-year-olds, people. That's all that matters.
And I thought it was so cool that they were like actually giving away real money. They were telling us, they were like, you don't understand how hard it is to give away real money. Like, people didn't think it was real, or they felt like nervous about taking it, or they'd forget about taking it. So I thought that was like really cool that they were like, no, we're giving away real money. Please take it.
Right.
So I loved The Purge and The Good Place, and honestly for the same reason for both, which is funny when you consider how like diametrically opposed those two things are. I know, but no, to me, like, the hallmark of a good offsite is basically if it's interactive, if it's fun, and if it fits into the world of the show. And I felt like both of those were just they just like, it made sense within the world. The Good Place one, especially if you were a fan of the show, it was just like mass chaos. So much fun to see all the little nods to the series. I loved that. I loved that you got amazing swag, like a little foam shrimp. Like, come on, how fun is this? That's cool. The Purge was just so tongue-in-cheek. In fact, I took a friend who she'd never seen any of the Purge movies. So I was like, okay, this is the vague idea of what the movies are. And she went in thinking she was going to hate it, and she walked out like, that was so much fun. And plus, at the Purge, like, they gave you 20 Purge bucks to spend, and you got like amazing things like Purge Away, so that you can get the vicious stains out of your clothes, or you could pick out whatever you wanted, like t-shirts, candles. Like, come on, how much fun is it that like you got to pick out your own swag and play around with the actors? It was good. I loved it.
And let's see, what else are we going to talk about here of the offsites? I think that was the main ones that we thought were good. It's also the ones we went to.
That helps.
That helps to figure out. We did hear reports that DC Universe was hit and miss for a lot of people.
Yeah. Castle Rock was supposed to be really fun, but we never made it over there. But I know Kim on our team, she really enjoyed that. Yeah, I heard Ready Player One was not great. Someone just said that in the chat. That's what we heard as well. What else was there? The Experience. I didn't stop over there. I know you didn't
either. Was apparently very good.
Yes, I heard really good things about South Park. There were some very, very solid offsites this year. But again,
nothing that blew anyone away except for maybe people who got to do like all of the Jack Ryan stuff.
Yeah. And they gave away some good stuff there too. Like they treated people well. They treated people well. Like I love that Jack Ryan was like, all right, if you came one day and you only got to do some of it, guess what? We're going to give you priority access the next day. Like, I think that's really cool because they knew that there were long lines. I think that's great. Again, and I loved that The Purge and The Good Place were rarely more than like a 2-hour, 3-hour wait. So,
and then offsites kind of, but parties. Apparently, the Ready Player One party or Ready Party One was a very good party.
Okay,
good party.
Fandom was great. Fandom's always great.
For those who managed to get in, was a good party.
Sci-fi, I heard, was a lot of fun.
Right. The parties were great this year.
Yeah. And again, and I think it's really cool too that there were parties that like normal people can get into.
Yes.
Like, I mean, yeah, cool. It's cool that Entertainment Weekly has a party every year, but since like literally no one gets into it except for actors, it's just kind of like, yeah, cool. You guys have fun. So, Cocoa House. Yeah, someone mentioned that was really cool. I did not stop by there, but we did do Conan.
Yes, which is
on Wednesday.
Honestly, at this point, Conan is like, it's always Conan. It's just a really high level of good because he's such a pro and he's a good guess. So that one, I mean, you can't really say much about it except for, yeah, you had to get up earlier or you had to make sure you were there because they did apparently oversell. Possibly.
They oversold last year as well. It was not as bad as I thought it would be, though, because on Wednesday when the tickets were out at like 10:30, I was like, well, shit, tomorrow they're going to be out at like 8:30 in the morning. But then it was like 10:30 every day pretty much, which isn't terrible.
Yeah.
Like basically if you could get over there by 10:30 in the morning, you got to go, which is cool.
The Nat Geo party was unorganized from someone in the group Malong 21. So yeah, we've seen a couple people comment that it wasn't great. I think that whole long RSVP time and open kind of maybe messed that up a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. But no, the offsites were just really solid this year. I thought, like, you and I both felt like there was more that we wanted to do this year and more that we actually did for the offsites.
Right.
Which is always.
I actually went to some this year. Normally I'm just a panel guy and then walk the show floor on Sunday. And I managed to get to, as you can tell, multiple offsites and go to panels that I wanted to see. So that's crazy.
And someone in the chat just mentioned Fire TV. I didn't go to the party for that, but I did go to the actual activation, and that was also really cool. And normally only had like a 20-minute line, which at Comic-Con is like, and it like the Iron Throne was over there. They also had like a lounge set up like the apartment in the Good Place. They had mocktails. They had some Jack Ryan stuff. That was cool too. And you got a fanny pack. So according to Sarah, that's the real winner of Comic-Con is the fanny pack.
Fanny packs. That was what the thing for this year. All about the fanny packs.
All about the fanny packs. All right. Let's see here. What else was really good this year? I thought the cell reception this year, like, it actually worked.
Yes.
Imagine that.
So I actually switched carriers, so now I'm on the dreaded Sprint. And I actually only had a problem, I think, twice, and that was over in the Hyatt and over in the Bayfront. And that was
good. That's good.
Center, it slowed down sometimes, but it never failed.
It's not bad.
For us, cell service was much better. So whatever they did, good job, double it.
Yes, basically. And speaking of like more logistical kind of things, I also wanted to say that I thought that the Harbor Drive closure worked amazing. Like, how nice was it for that sidewalk directly in front of the convention center not to be just like you didn't feel like a sardine when you stepped outside.
When Hall H did empty, if it emptied after a panel, you didn't have to wait half an hour just to be able to get somewhere. Everyone's dispersed.
Yeah.
Better.
I felt like, especially the first couple of days, it's a little bit different on the weekend when the locals show up in the gas lamp. But I felt like those first couple of days, like when you stepped outside and it wasn't just like bumper to bumper people, I feel like that also gave you the impression kind of that things were less crowded. But I think a lot of that may have also just been the Harbor Drive, again, dispersed the people the way that you're supposed to be dispersed. So thumbs up to that.
Thumbs up, definitely. And then other best things is time to shine for small stuff.
It really was. Like, I mean, I know I mentioned it earlier, but like so many of like medium-sized booths that I talked to, like people were going to them earlier. They were selling out earlier. Like because people weren't rushing, lining up, camping out for Funko, Hasbro, Lego, that kind of stuff because of the lotteries. Like, people got to go and check out other stuff it really was just like if you were a smaller booth or a smaller panel, like more people checked you out this year. And it was your, like James just said, it was your time to shine, which is cool.
And mentioning, as we mentioned, that the Comic-Con did mention, someone from Comic-Con did mention that more small panels were full, which means those smaller things. Like personally, I went to the Wonder Woman of the 1940s panel, and after that panel, before it let out, there was a really long line, and I had just come from Supergirl, so I wasn't able to line up early. But I got there, and they had just started letting the line in, and it seemed like it went on forever, and I could not believe they were letting that many people into that small of a room. And when I joined the end of the line and still managed to get in, I was surprised. But that room was full for that panel, and it was awesome.
Yeah.
So people have been mentioning things like the offsites, like the Nerdist offsite. The Nerdist House was a really good offsite. Good panels and meet and greets.
You know what? And I heard all week that like it was so amazing, and I think they also had like free booze. But I think for any offsite that's like not in that immediate area, it's just so easy to get overlooked. You know, like Amazon Fire kind of had the same problem. Like it's not far, but it's a couple blocks away, so it's just kind of out of sight, out of mind. But the good news is for anyone willing to make that trek, there was like zero wait for some of those further away things.
Michelle Vo said some other lines that were bananas, peanuts, and Deadpool shirt giveaways. And those kind of things, those are things you basically expect at Comic-Con. Those things kind of won't change, where there's like some special giveaway that people see, or a particular shop that has a decent line. That's always going to happen, where there's some random thing that everybody wants to do all of a sudden, and therefore you have a line.
There are a couple of lines though specifically that I want to talk about, and number one among them is basically Funimation and Bait. And those are two booths that normally are like pretty easy to get into. Like normally, maybe they're not exactly walk-ups, but it's very minimal wait. And I think this year with Funko moving to a lottery, both of those booths had Funko Pops. And I think a lot of the people who would normally have waited for Funko instead headed straight to those two booths and just caused mass chaos. I wasn't even there, but it was hysterical trying to cover Funimation like on my phone while sitting in Indigo waiting for Ballroom 20, because it was like, okay, they're gonna open up the line, we're gonna get in the line. Okay, got in the line. They capped the line. They stopped the line. It's dispersed. Okay, so now they've told us to come back in an hour. No, wait, they've told us to come back in 30 minutes. No, wait. Okay, we're going to go do a drawing up in sales. It was just like everything that they tried. Like there was just too many people circling the booth, so they just kept having to change it. I felt really bad, honestly, for anyone in that line. It was nuts. But I think their ticket system worked out okay in the end. Bait, again, I think was kind of a madhouse all week as well. And then I did also hear very not good things about Viz's system for the My Hero Academia signing. I don't totally know what went down there, but I think that the line was just like literally out to the marina for that one. And I think someone told me that maybe they like hand selected people to win, which is a little uncool, but I don't know enough about that to comment on it. So, but those are like the main line issues that I heard about over the week. Those were the like truly like this is bananas on the show floor stuff. All right, what do we got going on here in the chat?
Someone mentioned that Legion M was a nice place to visit.
Yeah, I think that was another one of those just slightly out of sight, out of mind. But for the people who went there, super cool to get into. Some Michelle Vo said FYE was cool. Yeah, that was cool. Let's see here. What else you guys got? Michelle Vo likes Patrick Ballesteros. Me too.
Earlier, I made sure I copied this out. I think Lego messed up too. They had people with tickets and had a line cap. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Was that their line could only have a certain length. So the line was technically capped until they took a few more people off of that section, and then it just refilled again. So essentially all you had to do was kind of circle, in which someone else, I think James mentioned in the chat, was how many people circled all weekend. Yeah, so when I went to the Funko line, it was full, and then I just kind of stepped back 5 steps, and then it moved, and I stepped into the line. So it was just that they couldn't go past that end of the wall where it said line capped. So the line capped wasn't really this line capped permanently. It was this line's capped until it moves 5 people, which is how many they took at a time over to the next section of the line.
Yeah.
So if they didn't explain that well to you while you were there at the line capped, I'm sorry, they should have. And that was a mistake on their part. But what Lego did that was actually kind of nice is, as long as you had a lottery win, you could pick it up at any point during the day. I mean, that's kind of nice and kind of not, because then you may get extra crowd. But it allowed like someone like me who had a 1:30 slot to go in at, I think I went in there at noon instead, because I had to get to another panel that I wanted to see. It let me get that done and out of the way and then move on to what I was doing. So there are pluses and minuses to that, but I thought it was fairly well done.
I do want to mention this because I heard about this as well. Epic Skyline just said in the chat, the problem at Lego was that they were mixing regular Lego shoppers with people picking up their exclusives. So if you wanted that Voltron, like it was basically like the same checkout for both.
Yeah. And so like if you went in for an exclusive, you could buy the Voltron too.
Yeah. But I think that also just like compounded the line, when really that should have been like 2 separate things, you know?
Yeah. Went on Sunday. That's something else that changed was on Sunday, unlike Friday or whenever it was the other time we went by there. They were letting people buy 2 of the exclusives.
Yeah. And to me, what that says is
people didn't pick up.
Yeah, basically that's what that says. I am so curious to see what people think, what like the vendors think about the system and how it changes. And I guess this is as good of a time as any to talk about the lottery. I have a feeling that Funko probably loved the lottery because they've been very vocal supporting it. I know for a fact that UCC liked the lottery this year. Lego and Hasbro, I think, could go either way.
I think Hasbro does not like it, based on what people saying. Like Jay just said in the chat that they had a lottery ticket for 4 o'clock, tried to line up at 2:30, and they were letting people in without lottery tickets. So
and I mean,
didn't really care too much about the lottery.
Yes, I heard all week long that they let people in, and I also heard that by 2 p.m. each day the line was open to anyone. I also think that you can look at the fact that Hasbro didn't do any lottery slots at all on Saturday or Sunday as like they probably weren't that enthusiastic about it in the first place. Lego though, again, I think could go either way. I don't think that the lottery is going anywhere. I do, however, hope that they make some changes. And honestly, it's the same changes that we really hoped that they would make from WonderCon. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't implement like any kind of real change between those two. As we've talked several times, to me, like the biggest thing that they need to add is basically a decline button.
Right.
Because yeah, it's cool that they like let you sign up early, but honestly, even a week before Comic-Con, like seriously, raise your hand if a week before Comic-Con your entire schedule is completely nailed down. I don't think anyone is raising their hand. Okay, no one. Like you don't know. And so you can't expect attendees to be like, yeah, okay, I'm gonna have this like some time in this 4-hour time slot on Friday a week from now. Like that's just not how Comic-Con works. So you need a decline button so that then they can reassign it to someone else. And then I think there needs to be some kind of repercussion if you don't decline it and you don't go. Like I know we talked about this at WonderCon, but to me, like the perfect solution is like, okay, well, if you don't decline it and you don't go, then the next year you're just not eligible for the lotteries. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Right.
Right?
I mean, there maybe, I don't know about because there can be things that happen, like what happened with me with the Taco Bell thing is the next thing I had planned I couldn't make it to because it was timed. And because the Taco Bell thing took so long, I couldn't make it to. And that wasn't my fault that the waitress had to.
Yeah, but I mean, like, honestly, like, you could probably email CCI afterwards. Like, even now, like, even with badge refunds, like, they have a deadline. But if you have, like, a legitimate reason, like, a lot of times they'll help you out anyway. But I just think that there needs to be some kind of repercussion, especially with the signings, because I heard all week long that, like, I think Lucifer was like an 8-minute signing because no one showed up. I heard that 2001 Space Odyssey was only like 30 minutes instead of an hour. Because, like, I just feel like there just needs, the lottery is a good system, and I truly believe that, but there needs to be changes because there's always going to be people who sign up who don't show up. Always.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me see if there's any things that people were mentioning that we need to talk about here. Michelle asked what the reason for the lottery system being implemented. It was to get rid of lines up in the morning and upstairs with all of the different lines that were happening in sales every morning of the convention. They wanted to get rid of some of those lines.
Yes.
That's really the main reason.
Yep. That's literally the only reason.
What did the 3 seashells do? I think Night Bodega asked that, plus maybe at least 1 or 2 other people. Were they in the bathroom?
Yes.
See, I didn't see them in our bathroom. Maybe they hadn't installed them yet, or maybe the men's didn't get them, but I didn't see them.
They were definitely in the women's bathroom, but they were just in like a little display case.
No, because there was a display between the bathrooms.
Yes, there was also a display between the bathrooms, but there was like another display case in the women's bathroom. I can't speak to the men's.
For all of you, the ones on display outside the bathroom, they lit up.
Yes, they did do that. Yeah. So.
But since I didn't go into the women's bathroom, I don't know what the ones in that bathroom did, if anything. And apparently, Carrie's not going to spoil it for you. So.
No. All right. Yeah, I did hear this. James just said in the chat, ABC gave away all the signings on Thursday morning, whether you could get there or not. I heard Wednesday, actually. So if they still had some on Thursday morning, that's more than I heard. I do think that's kind of crappy. But as we say every year, each and every booth is going to do their own thing. It just is what it is.
Oh. And I think we asked the Silent Night's question about what can be done to improve it, which is the decline button.
Seriously, though, there needs to be a decline button. Like, and I know so many people, too, who, like, signed up for everything. And then we're like, oh, but I didn't actually want this, because that's always going to happen. So, again, just add a decline button. And Luke said, Parks and Cons did not seem to be for the lottery. And their video wrap-up, they said they benefited from it, but are not fans. Yeah. I can tell you for a fact that Sean and Carmel are not fans. And maybe that's the difference, is that you and I are not really like the hardcore Hasbro people, you know? Like, we're not the people who that would have like never been our first stop anyway at the convention.
Right.
So I do understand that viewpoint of like, this is the thing that I was going to Comic-Con for, and now Comic-Con International has basically been like, well, tough luck. If you want to do the thing that you love, like, you have to enter a lottery. I get that it sucks for those people. I really do, but I also just think that the lines were so much better this year. And the flip side of that too is that, like, people like my friend Sarah, she won the Lego 2 movie signing. And she would have never in a million and camped out for that. But she thought it was like the coolest part of her convention. Like, she loved getting to do that. So there's plus and minuses.
And
like
I never would have gone to buy Meme Kermit, right? It's actually, what's it, Constantine?
It's Constantine or Dark Kermit, but it's Meme Kermit. That's what everyone.
Never gone to buy one of these, but I got lucky and got UCC distributing. So guess who has a Dark Kermit now?
I mean, he's pretty freaking cool. I got one to give away, and I was a little sad I didn't sneak one in for myself. Okay, I'm right? I told UCC, I was like, okay, here's the deal. This thing was such a hit. Every year now, you need to make like a different meme Kermit. Like next year, you need a Kermit that's drinking tea. And I think he was like, what in the world are you talking about? But I'm not wrong. It'd be cool.
We need a Kermit drinking tea.
Yes.
We need one with a window.
Yes.
Staring out the window. And whatever other memes are out there for Kermit, we need a Kermit every year from UCC for the next however many years those memes last. Because
I know.
And it'd be a set. And it would be awesome.
It would be awesome. All right, let's see here. Somebody just asked, can we pose the question best swag? Do you want to talk about swag?
Sure. I got my Clone Wars poster right here. This thing is the coolest and it's awesome. And I got it from the panel. Yes.
That is pretty cool. I mean, again, I feel like I got some pretty freaking amazing things.
I think you got the better end of that.
I freaking love my stream, but honestly, I felt like the Purge had like the best swag because first of all, you got to pick out what you wanted, and it was nice stuff. Like you could buy a hat, you could buy a shirt, you could buy posters, you could buy bumper stickers, candles, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
So, but there was lots of good swag. I mean, the Lego minifigures are always like insane. It was so funny. Like when the lottery announcements went out, I had so many people be like, hey, I won this Lego minifigure, but I don't know how much it's going to cost me. And I was like, guess what? It's free. I enjoy getting to tell people that. Yeah, there was some good swag this year. There wasn't much in the panels.
No.
I feel like.
Like I said, the first was from a panel, and I got a Legion shirt from that panel.
I think there was a poster in Venom.
And when we went and picked up our poster, when we went through the redemption room, there was like maybe 3 or 4 other sections where people were handing out stuff for people coming through. And that usually had like every section full in some years. So they handed out some stuff more in the panels than in the redemption room. So
yeah, that's what I heard as well. So
I mean, if you want to know all the swag that was available that you missed out on, like we did, all you have to do is listen to Sean at Parks and Cons.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I know what they gave away, and then he started listing like 40 things, and I was like, nope.
Never saw it, never knew about it. So sorry. Oops. And that's the great thing about Comic-Con is there's so many things that show up, like that Star Wars Millennium Falcon cockpit photo op. No one announced that it was going to include a pair of dice. You can get Han Solo's dice if you did that. I'm like, I would have actually tried to do it if I knew that was going to be there. I mean, I wanted a picture anyway, but it never really fit into my planning. But I would have made room for dice. And I know, they're like $10 online. It's not a big deal.
Okay, but... so speaking of things that were not announced, that freaking Marvel offsite that like I literally found about after the convention was over. Like someone tweeted me a photo and was like, why didn't you guys mention this? And I was like, what? I had no idea this existed. I think on Saturday, maybe it was Sunday. One of those days, I guess Marvel set up like a group hug offsite, and they were offering like group counseling for those traumatized by the end of Infinity War.
Yeah.
Like, tell me that does not sound amazing. Like, I know literally no one who went except for Jermaine Lucier, who, like, that's the article that someone sent me. I was like, what in the world?
And this is my show. Also mentioned the Nightmare Before Christmas pocket pop-up, which some cons did go to. So we knew about that one, but of course, after the fact.
Well, no, I tweeted about it Saturday morning from the blog because someone...
I personally didn't know about it.
Okay. Well, I didn't know about it before Saturday morning, but when it popped up, someone was like, hey, this is a thing that exists. So I did retweet that. But it was only there on Saturday, which is kind of sad. So, yeah.
Whoa.
What? I know. There's just too much to do at Comic-Con.
So we're going to go through some things that we enjoyed personally, just so, because we're the ones with the microphones, so we can talk.
Yeah. Why not? Oh, no. Real quick. Okay, you go ahead.
No, do what you're
I
gonna
was, I was just gonna say, I did want to mention real quick one other really terrible thing that happened this year is that, and I'm sure it happens every year, but I heard about it more this year, is that several booths got robbed. I know that Toddland had their end of the line Tina sign that they had signed by the cast. Someone literally took that. Upper Deck, someone stole a piece of their artwork. CineQuest, someone stole a statue off their table. That's not cool. Don't do that. That's it. It's
Yeah.
my spiel.
Okay. Right. So now, awesome things that weren't the general awesome things that we've already talked about, like very specific to us awesome things. Go ahead.
Okay. I'll do me. Honestly, my possibly my favorite thing of the entire weekend was the Crazy Ex-Girlfriend live show. It was just so much fun. They came out like dressed up as each other's characters. We laughed so hard we cried. I loved that. You do one and then I'll do another.
Okay. You're making me unprepared, but I will talk about, I already mentioned it, but I'm going to talk about this. The Wonder Woman in the 1940s. So I mentioned how I was getting in, but this was a lady who I don't have her name in front of me. But she was a ghostwriter for Wonder Woman in the 1940s. She was hired by Marston, and listening to her talk about that for 50 minutes or whatever it was awesome. And she had some great stories. My favorite being one of the panelists, it was Mark Avenier and Trina Robbins were the people asking her the questions. And they asked her what were some of her favorite stories she wrote, if she could remember any specific ones that she wrote. And she basically explained about her writing process was when she gets something down on paper, and then once it's done and sent off to the editor, it's gone out of her brain. She doesn't care anymore. It's like, I wrote the story, it's done. My mind now needs to be filled with new things. And then she just leans in the mic and says, why don't you just go read the comics?
It's a good answer.
Awesome. She had no filter. It was awesome. That
is cool. That's fun. I really enjoyed dogs. I really enjoyed seeing all the dogs. Not gonna lie. Yeah, that was pretty fun. I enjoyed not sleeping on the ground this year either. I truly think this is the first year I've ever been to San Diego Comic-Con where I have not slept out at least one night. I did go line up at like 4 a.m. for the Good Place, but still, I slept like a solid like 3 or 4 hours in an actual bed before that. So I'm not counting that as sleeping on the ground.
Yeah, Joy Murchison Kelly was the writer's name.
Gotcha.
Thank you. So a couple of my favorites, actually Beth's going to show some photos that she edited already because she's way faster at that than I am. And of course, obviously, because we've already posted photos of it, but the Clone Wars is way up on our list of favorite things. And not only being able to be there for the panel and in the third row, but being there at the end when they announced that Clone Wars was coming back. As I tweeted, it was one of the best things at the convention, if not the best thing for us. And just being able to be in a room like with other fans like that, and having that kind of experience, that's the kind of thing that Comic-Con is all about. Yeah. And the other thing was Her Universe. That was we haven't been able to go to that. This was the first year we've finally made time for it. Something else. We wanted to go to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but we managed to go to this. And as you can see, it was an awesome event. She was wearing that 500 pop dress, which was insane. It weighed like 40 or 50 pounds or something like that. The doctor showed up. We couldn't make either of the panels that Jodie Whittaker was going to be on, and she just randomly shows up to the Her Universe fashion show with the best lighting of the convention. I mean, come on. That was so awesome. And just having all of that happen and being able to be there for the 2-hour show was great. And of course, I took like too many photos, and hopefully I'll be able to get through a lot of them. Be able to do at least one photo of every dress or outfit that was designed. They were all awesome. My favorite did not win audience award, unfortunately, but the one that did win is still awesome. Anyway, that was one of my favorite things. And of course, someone mentioned this in the chat, but my other favorite thing is the swag bag. And I think these are maybe not exactly my style, but they were in my swag bag, so I'm going to wear them for at least a few seconds. But the swag bag for that Her Universe gave out was like really awesome. It had Ashley's book. It had a gift certificate for Zenny, which is what these glasses are. It had a shirt. It had a little toy. It was basically like, here, let's give you hundreds of dollars worth of stuff just for showing up to our free event.
Which is awesome.
It was great. So yes, had a great time. And now I'm going to go back to being able to see again.
That's funny. Other stuff that I personally loved, I love that ABC had like actual merchandise this year. I got my stupid little Golden Girls pen, and this is like my favorite thing that I bought on the show floor this year. So I sincerely hope that ABC continues to do actual merch and exclusives. I loved that someone told a story about walking past the good place and a shrimp fell out of the sky, just like in the show. I think that's great. I feel like an asshole for wearing this, but I'm going to tell the story. Todd at Toddland, I adore that gentleman, and he made me a nice little sash that declares me the Queen of Comic-Con, but unofficially, obviously. And yeah, that was pretty freaking awesome. I enjoyed that. And then honestly, beyond that, like I think James would agree, but I think we just love every year getting to meet you guys. We had so much fun at the party. We had so much fun with cups of water. You say what you're going to say, James.
Oh, you mean about cups of water?
About any of it, yeah.
About meeting people or about just any of my favorite stuff? You want to do the thinking
anything.
At the anything? All right. Cups of water was awesome. That was you guys may not have believed us. We thought it was like a stupid joke, for just the podcast. But no, when we make stupid jokes, we tend to try and follow through on them.
Absolutely.
And we found a small little patch of grass right next to the Omni, and we gave out water and little cups of water, and it was awesome. And obviously, it was like right in the morning on Friday, I think it was, and therefore a lot of people were already doing things and couldn't make it over there. But I suspect the cups of water may make a return in future Comic-Cons, so be on the lookout for your own little stupid plastic cup of water.
I feel like maybe like 5 people of the 50 who stopped by like actually understood the joke, but I didn't really care because we were amused, which is, yes, like James said, usually a good sign that we had fun and we'll do it again. But yeah.
Other things were went to the Mego panel, and Joe Namath was there, and it's just, I mean, I'm not a Joe Namath fan. I mean, just in the general sense of, he's funny and he was a good football player, but the fact that he was at Comic-Con was just so incredible and amazing. And the best thing happened was a lady in the front row, when it was question time, asked a question of, is there any way to get replacement parts or clothes for her Joe Namath? She has an original Joe Namath Mego from the 70s. And she wanted, and it's starting to, obviously it's a little old, so it's starting to wear down and things are breaking, and she wanted to be able to replace things. And, the guy from Mego is like, no, there's not. And then they were starting to go on to the next question, and Joe Namath just stood up and then started walking down the stage and off the stage and around and pulled the lady up, gave her a kiss on her cheek and a big old hug, and then just turned around and walked right back up to the stage and sat down and got ready to answer more questions. It was incredible. Best of all, after the panel, I'm walking through sales, and I'm stopping, and I'm thinking about where I'm going to do my next prize mule drop. And I hear someone talking, and I look, and it's the lady from that panel walking by, and she's talking to someone on the phone, and she's telling the person, I just don't know where I am right now. I don't know what's going on. And she was basically just still stunned a half hour later from what Namath did. And that was amazing.
That's so cool. That's a good story. That's a really good story.
I have all these, people in the chat are just having all of their own stories, and it's awesome with just amazing things that happen. But I have another one, 2 of them actually. Deadly Class Q&A. I saw someone mention that earlier, and it's because of the very first question from this kid who was like 13. They turned to him on the camera, of course, this is in the Indigo, And he shows up and everyone starts giggling a bit because he's a 13-year-old in this mature audience's show and comic. And then they were like, okay, go ahead and ask your question. And he's like, besides the money, why did you decide to make this into a TV show? And of course, once they said besides the money, the crowd in the panel is just busting up laughing. And after everything settled down, Rick Remender says, okay, so finish your question, because all I heard was besides the money before this place erupted. So it was just incredible. It was awesome. And he actually gave a good answer too, which is good. And then this over here, right here, if you're watching live, this is a Kirk, one of those 6-inch or 6-scale Kirks from QMX Master Series that QMX and Sideshow and them sell. And it was 5 minutes before the end of the show on Sunday, and I was walking by taking pictures like I do at Sideshow, and I walked by near where they have their little table area that the people stand behind, and I saw they had 2 boxes out in front, and one of them said Con, and I'm like, oh, hey, look, it's Con. And he's like, yeah. And I said, what's the other one? He said, Kirk. And I said, original? And he's like, yeah, of course, OG. And I said, do you have a Spock? And he's like, no Spock. I'm like, well, my wife would love to have that Kirk. And he's like, yeah. I said, yeah, her online name's Trekkie Beth, of course. And he's like, shh, slides it over to me and says, here you go.
Which is pretty freaking awesome, James.
Which is really awesome. And I don't know if I'm supposed to tell that story because I don't know. Sideshow wants to know that they gave something away. But, you know, we have a Kirk now, thanks to someone at Sideshow being awesome. And just little stories like that about Comic-Con are just incredible. So
absolutely. And seriously, like, there's some really cool stories happening right now in our chat. Someone mentioned the Jamie Curtis Halloween thing. Like, that's awesome. Comic-Con is just the thing that I love about Comic-Con is we can all go and like no 2 people have the same story, like walking out, you know?
Yeah.
Everyone has their own experience.
The Steven Universe panel was amazing. I
went to that. Yep.
Heard them. All of that. I mean, sit-through panels that you normally wouldn't sit through. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have gone to the Magicians panel. I'd seen a couple of the actors at a WonderCon once before, and I don't watch the show right now, so I didn't know much about them, but it was only 2 of them. So I'm like, yeah, they were cool, you know what. But this one, there was like 5, and Felicia Day was the moderator, and the panel was just rocking from the get-go, and it was funny and entertaining. It was awesome. So there's always something, and hopefully you get one of those sit-throughs if it's something you're waiting for. That is one of those awesome panels that makes you a fan of something else.
Yes, absolutely.
So, my bad stuff, not so good stuff, getting sick, obviously, which I think happened starting Thursday morning, so that made the con not quite so great. And the lack of sleep, which I did sleep out one time.
Yeah, you're crazy.
I planned ahead because, you know, you got to get near the front for photos, and we knew that Ballroom 20 was going to be pretty stacked on Saturday, so we had to get there early, and we still ended up like 10th row or something like that, which is crazy for getting in line after 1 a.m. Crazy.
This year, yeah, it was. Any other year, no. This year, yes. All right.
So much stuff. So much stuff.
Oh, I know. Katina just mentioned in the chat the Great Debate. I'm so freaking sad I didn't get to see that this year because that was like literally my favorite panel last year. But I was really happy that a lot of you tweeted me after and were like, thank you guys for the recommendation because that was so much fun. So I'm glad even if I didn't get to enjoy it, someone did.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some awesome panels. And again, like the smaller stuff this year, I hope a lot of you got a chance to like check it out because there's so much more to Comic-Con than Hall H. Not that Hall H isn't amazing, but there's just so much more outside of Hall H or Funko, you know, like it's a huge convention.
It is. And I am so glad that I got to do such a variety of things this year where I normally wouldn't. Like, I was like either on the show floor at an offsite or in a panel virtually every single day.
Yeah,
I was able to do 3 different things every single day, and I don't know if that would have been possible anytime in the last 5 years.
Nope, completely agree. I did more offsites this year than I have in like literally years. I was on the floor more than in literally years. It was just it was a good year to actually be able to go and do some other stuff. So,
and despite the fact that I didn't attend as many panels as normal, like last year, I was in a room for 3 days seeing panels, and that to me doesn't mean that the panels were bad. It just meant that I had more options and I didn't have to wait in line as long. Like, I didn't want to go see necessarily a panel that was in, like, Clone Wars was the second panel of the day. I didn't have to wait all day for it, so I didn't have to be in the panel room all day.
That's how The Good Place was for me. And then like Brooklyn Nine-Nine, I lined up like 5 hours early, but I didn't have to go camp out for it.
Right.
So
just to get into any room this year was relatively easy across the board.
It was amazing. It was like this is when I say like this year felt like Comic-Con, like circa 2011 or 2012, like that's mostly what I mean, is like you could get into stuff without working near as hard, which is, again, theoretically the way that Comic-Con is supposed to work. Like, Comic-Con does not want you to wait in a 48-hour line. I don't want to wait in a 48-hour line. You shouldn't want to wait in a 48-hour line.
Jay Schomburg mentioned that he was 2 rows in front of me in Ballroom 20, and he got in line at 3:15 a.m. That means that I suck at getting seats, and also I needed an aisle seat so I could get up, which if you didn't need an aisle seat, there were plenty of seats closer when I got in there. It's just I needed an aisle seat, and I'm going to complain about being 10th row, even though it was my choice.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm just...
I am seeing a lot of people in the chat saying that they stopped by to Blog to Fury, so thank you so much for doing that. We have so much fun at that event, and honestly, like, I'm so happy we've changed it from the like all-out party, because now we actually get to talk to you guys, which is very different than just like, hey, let James and I draw lottery tickets out of a bag all night and speak to no one.
Except each other about how fast we have to do the next one because we're running out of time.
Basically. So it's just, thank you again for showing up to that. Thank you if you showed up for cups of water. Thank you if you said something to us in a panel or waiting in a line. Like, we love meeting you guys.
Like, who met me in the Lego line and we chatted while we were waiting for our Lego exclusive. So that was awesome. It
is awesome. Like, it's so cool because we do this like for you guys. So it's nice to know that people actually read. It's nice to know. So again, I just want to reiterate that, like, we love getting to talk to you guys at Comic-Con. So thank you for those of you who said hi.
Yeah, and having conversations around means we can do things like this. Rochelle, just let your man enjoy what he enjoys.
That's right. That's right, Rochelle.
And also, a doppelganger. There's another James Riley who goes to Comic-Con. It's pretty funny. He spells his name wrong, but he's a cool guy.
That's right. I do want to mention Tyler, who watches our podcast. He had a very rough Comic-Con this year. So shout out to Tyler. I hope your week improves. And then someone just asked me if am I going to show a video of my Taco Bell box that I got. Yes, I will, but I actually had to mail it back to myself because it was like this big. It like literally cost me like $80 to mail back to myself, and I'm totally okay with that. So when that gets here on Thursday night, I'll take a video, but it was like the coolest thing I've ever gotten in my life. And seeing the photos of myself opening it was actually hilarious. But genuine.
I also wanted to mention for Prize Mule, one of the things that's switching our party as well to just a meetup, it allowed us to institute Prize Mule, which has allowed us to meet more of you in a less crazy fashion.
Yes.
And also to be able to hand out the prizes to a wide variety of people across the entire convention. And it's great being able to do that and also come up with really stupid jokes when we post our prize mules, which I am trying as hard as I can to come up with as many stupid ways to give you a phrase to say or to say something about, like, PayCon. That's my best one.
PayCon was by far, like, hands down the winner. Like,
so,
it's not going to be topped. Good job.
And that was after, getting in line at 1 a.m., sleeping on the grass, going to panels until 3:30, going to the Wonder Woman panel, then going to the panels in Indigo and getting out at 9 p.m. and then wandering in a daze over to near Hall H. And like, I need to come up with a prize meal thing. And then I came up with PaceyCon, and I don't know how. So basically, tired James is stupid James, but also sometimes awesome James.
Genius, James. No, PaceyCon for the win. I said this the other day. I very much feel as though our staff shirts next year need to be about PaceyCon.
Yes.
Because let's all be honest, PaceyCon was the greatest thing that's ever happened at Comic-Con. And if you don't know what we're talking about, go Google it. And if you don't agree, you're wrong. That's what I have to say.
Yes, the best swag of all the con.
Yes.
Someone, Night Bodega just mentioned it. Like, how could we forget the Deadpool toilet seat covers? Which I know in person.
I didn't either. The rest of them I went to didn't have them. Well, I did see them in person, but the rest of them I went to didn't have them. But I freaking loved Thursday morning, like while waiting for the show floor. There was like actual Comic-Con staff being like, "Hey guys, have you been to the bathroom? Have you been to the bathroom? Look what you get if you go to the bathroom. You should go to the bathroom." Just to like people walking by, and I was like, "This is amazing."
Like, why are people so interested in my bodily functions this year?
Oh God, it was good though.
And there was Deadpool pizza over at the Hyatt, right?
I don't think I knew this.
Yeah, they were selling Deadpool. Well, Deadpool pizza. I don't think they could actually call it Deadpool pizza, but anyway, there was so many things. It was a great year. Come on, people. This was.
It was a really good year.
There were problems. There's always going to be problems, but the problems were not massive problems like last year with people cutting in the back, the Hall H wristband fiasco. There was nothing like that this year that I can think of where it would made it an awful year for some people. There was bad things. There was a few here and there. Some people did have an awful year, but it wasn't the mass awfulness that would cause something like that would cause. So I think overall, weird but good.
Honestly, again, like, I felt like there was more tailor-made to me specifically this year than like literally any other year at Comic-Con. Like, I had so much more fun. I got to do more. I didn't have to wait in as many lines. Like, this was a good Comic-Con. So thumbs up to the programming department for programming some amazing things and programming it the way that they did to like disperse the crowds. Thumbs up to the booths. Thumbs down to the Indigo Ballroom people. But beyond that, yeah, it was just a really good year.
Paul wants to ask our opinion on the badge scanning with Hall H wristbands. I think that's a good idea. Having RFID in the wristbands is a very good idea to link the badge. Because now switching of badges. No switching of wristbands.
Yep, I agree.
And if they don't scan right, guess what? You're not getting an All H. So hopefully they scan right.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, there were some sad things like John Schnepp dying. He passed away during Comic-Con, and there were some good tributes to him. I think Kevin Smith had something at the end of his panel. It was entirely too sad that they had to have, I think it was 3 different in memoriam panels during Comic-Con.
Yes.
So that's the not good side of Comic-Con, but it's also it's a part of life, I guess.
And then real quick before
Comic-Con, we're supposed to not be in the middle of real life, really.
Yes. So let's not end on that note.
No,
someone asked a minute ago about what do we think they'll do for the 50th anniversary? And we kind of already know one thing because they're giving away, you know more than I do, but that like prize pack to Comic-Con 2019, but it includes like the thing for the museum. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The Comic-Con Museum is going to be doing a fundraiser on Omaze. I think it's just omaze.com/comic, so you can go find out. And basically, you're entering to win a prize pack that will include such things as a hotel stay, a full pass to Comic-Con, VIP passes to where you can get assigned seating in Hall H without having to wait, and some other perks and sundry things, including, I think, some kind of opening party or party during Comic-Con for the Comic-Con Museum, something like that. Basically,
yes, it's the inaugural gala. So I have a feeling that like the museum opening is going to be a big deal.
Yes,
next
sounds
year.
like. And someone else, Jay, just asked do you think it will be big because it's the 50th year? Yes, they will be making it a big deal because it's the 50th year. I can virtually guarantee that it will be. They will be planning something huge.
Yeah. So
the museum opening, but something at Comic-Con and something for Comic-Con, and we'll see what it is.
So basically, I hope you enjoyed your no lines because it won't happen again.
So we are going to continue attendee of the week, correct? Sometime randomly throughout the year?
Yes. I don't believe we're going to start like this week or anything, but I think here in a couple of weeks, we will be starting up attendee of the week again, and we're going to continue it into the off season. So you can apply to that. We'll have the links in the show notes if you haven't already applied. And just so you know, if you apply once and like we don't choose you immediately, like we keep all of the old ones. So sometimes we'll go back and choose an older one. So don't think it's a like, oh, I applied and didn't get chosen immediately.
But now you have all kinds of new things to show for this year, so you can reapply as well.
Yeah, I also wanted to mention Hasbro quantities are exclusive online on code. I think it's like August 13th on their web store, and there's a link to that on our website as well. If you go and you click on our Hasbro exclusives post, it's like up at the top.
Okay. Is Mattel going to be doing some too? They just haven't announced the date?
I don't think they've announced a date. I don't feel like they have. A lot of times, I don't know this year because they kind of already did their like pre deal.
They probably,
so I don't know.
They'll probably put it up on their Mattel shop because I think they have some stuff from last year too. Also,
yeah, they usually do an after sale. Yes, you're right.
Monogram has some stuff up that were exclusives this year up for sale, and they'll be listing more tomorrow. Correct?
Yeah. Oh, she emailed me and said they're up tomorrow, and then I tweeted that, and she was like, "Oh, I didn't think you'd read this tonight. They're up now." So they're actually up right now. So you can go grab them now.
Go grab yours. All right.
And I'm sure there will be more. Let's talk briefly. You know what? We have an announcement to make about
2019.
Yeah, about ourselves at San Diego Comic-Con 2019. Next year, mark your calendars. We are moving our party. We have been on Wednesday night basically since we started doing our party, and we used to be literally the only party on Wednesday night as a good alternative to preview night, but there's so many other alternatives now to preview night, and also James and I really miss actually attending preview night. So we are going to be the only Comic-Con after party that is after Comic-Con. We're going to be Sunday at like, I don't know, 6 p.m.-ish, somewhere there, time to be determined exactly, but we will be Sunday night. And we sincerely hope you all stop by. So if you like seeing us, maybe just leave on Monday.
We are brainstorming names for our party because obviously it can't be Too Blog, Too Furious now that we're changing it. Just like it couldn't be Enchantment Under the SDCC once we change that party style. So we'll be coming up with a new one. Did you like my suggestion? Is that one like in the running?
I mean, you can say your suggestions. I liked your first one last night. Your second one was a little iffy. Yeah,
I know. That one was we're tired then. Jurassic Party 3, We're Too Old for Wednesday.
I'm pretty okay with that one. Yeah, that could be in the running. We got a couple months to figure out a name. We'll nail it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes, so next year, Sunday night party, it's happening. It's happening. So that's all I've got.
All right. Okay. This has run on long enough. So this is the final SDConCast of the 2018 season. We'll be back for returning and open registration whenever that will be, because no dates have been announced. I know I did this just before Comic-Con, but I wanted to run through it again because these are all very important people. First off, I would like to thank Carrie for joining me every week and making sure that we get all the right information. She is obviously the heart and soul of the unofficial blog, and there is basically there wouldn't be no unofficial blog without her.
And I didn't pay him to say that. So thank you.
She doesn't pay me at all. What are you talking about? And I'm still saying nice things about her.
Also true.
Also, Robert and Sean from the UBlog team for coming on to help throughout the season on the podcast, but also to the rest of the team who helps, and you don't see it as much, but trust me, the other, 6 people who help us out do so much to make sure that you get all the information that you need in a timely manner and in a manner that is readable and easy to see.
Lisa, Kara, like everyone on our team, and I'm gonna interrupt you now and say some nice things about James. If I'm the heart and soul, like James is the head. Like he is the only reason I function. I think he's the reason any of us function. Anytime we need a voice of reason, like James is it. You do so much incredible work for the site, and I appreciate it so much. And plus, you are an amazing photographer to boot.
Thank you. I didn't have to tell her to say that either.
Nope.
One or two, whatever. Special thank you to my wife, Beth, for producing the show. Also being an amazing photographer. Obviously, all the photos you see more often are hers, and she is amazing.
Yes, she is.
To all of our special guests throughout the year, thank you so much for giving your time to come onto this show and chat with us about Comic-Con. And to every one of you who listened, watched, read, tweeted, ran after Prize Mule, won, lost, whatever. Thank you all so much. We do this for you and appreciate every one of you who does all of that and helps us to do this as well. So thank you, everyone. Thank you very much.
Seriously.
So in closing...
I'm going to switch the order here. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me at Dan Regal everywhere on the internet, and you can check out Geek Shot Photo for links to photography from my wife and I. Carrie, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon, where I will actually be now that Comic-Con season is almost over. Oh my God.
And we get a break.
Woo!
Sort of.
Yeah. Okay. So real quick, let me just do my little spiel. We have a couple more wrap-up things coming here probably over the next week, like a couple more offsite wrap-ups. We're going to do an actual post about like the best and worst of Comic-Con this year. And then we sleep the Odin sleep. We'll still be around, but just not near as much.
Yeah, Beth and I are going to try and get Geek Shots posts out every week, maybe even multiples a week as we finish photos. I'm obviously slower, so you'll see more of Beth's, as I mentioned, but hers are always better anyway. So, you know, you'll appreciate it.
Yes.
So I do have at least one awesome one from the Her Universe Fashion Show and one awesome one from Conan that I can't wait to edit and post. So be looking out for those.
I saw one of them and it was pretty awesome. Someone just asked when do we ramp up again. Usually around like when returning registration happens is kind of when we start kicking into gear. But again,
we'll do an open reg, and then the actual podcast starts ramping up after one.
Yeah, probably like May. I think that's when we started this year.
After open reg, typically, because that's when things start to come, and that's usually near the beginning of the year.
Okay, Night Bodega just asked when we'll badge ship.
You're gonna make us again. Stop it.
Oh Lord! All right, moving on. We are on. No, thank you to Beth, our producer, for putting together the slides, editing the show, and all the other things to get this podcast done. We're just doing this all out of order, James.
It's all right. We're on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We are also on Stitcher Radio. The link is in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send an email to sdcomiccon.blog@gmail.com, or you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog, or tweet us at sd_comic_con.
Thank you all for listening, and everybody, go
Pharma.
Seriously, Rochelle, let the man enjoy what he's going to enjoy.